Hello, and welcome to the third episode of Anxious but Thriving. So, I did get a couple DMs, a little bit upset that I left off the last episode on a cliffhanger, but I need to get my thoughts in order. Last episode was really hard for me to record, I'm not gonna lie. I had to record it 3 times. I'm gonna try to get through this episode with a little bit of edits as possible. I just wanna run through this, get everything correct, the timeline correct. I wanna miss no details. I feel like that was happening a lot the last episode, and I feel like I even still left out some details. So let's really jump into this, okay? Last episode, I ended off letting you guys know that my dad's girlfriend at the time, now wife, asked me to move in, and I took up the offer mainly because when I had initially lived with my mom, didn't have the best relationship. We were butting heads a lot, and when I moved out, relationship definitely grew, and I was afraid that if I moved back in, it would become a problem again. So I didn't want that to happen. So I definitely took up my dad up on that offer, which honestly, looking back, was probably one of my biggest mistakes, just because I was still dealing with anxiety and panic attacks, and I didn't know him like that. So it was like not the time to be trying to get to know someone and dealing with my own mental struggle. I had to move into this. I'm going to refer to it as an apartment just because it's easier for me than saying like my dad's house or basement. It's just easier for me to say apartment. So don't get anything confused. When I say apartment, I mean my dad's basement. So I had to move into this apartment by myself because at the time I actually got COVID. And which is crazy. This is like after quarantine, and I didn't get COVID the whole entire time until everybody else was getting like back to normal again. I finally got COVID, and God is good. The only symptoms that I had was I didn't have taste and I didn't have smell. I maybe had like a little cough, but nothing crazy. I didn't have a fever. Like I was pretty much fine. The only symptoms I had was I couldn't taste and I couldn't smell. I had to move into this apartment myself because I didn't want to get my dad or his wife sick because she was pregnant at the time. So it wouldn't have been a good look, you know? Um I moved in, and like I said, I still was struggling with anxiety. So I want to say a couple of days into living with my dad, the panic attacks started up again. And I remember one night having to call my dad for help because sometimes my panic attacks were worse than others. Sometimes they were bad but manageable, like I was fine, but sometimes they were bad and I felt like I was going to die. So I would just go to the hospital. I would take the help, go to the hospital. I wasn't going to risk it. A lot of the times I felt like I was going to pass out. It takes a lot of energy out of you, like a lot of energy, especially when you're trying to fight it. So I remember this one night I had to call my dad to come help me, and at first he was just trying to talk me down, like trying to make me feel safe. He was telling me like a story about him having anxiety, which I don't think I got into, but after finding out that I was dealing with anxiety and panic attacks, I found out that anxiety actually comes from both sides of my family. So my mom and my dad, both of them deal with anxiety. And then my dad's mom also deals with anxiety, and my mom's dad. So it was just bound to be one of her kids to have to deal with it, and it had to be me. So he was talking to me about just like his experience with anxiety being in prison and having to deal with it and stuff like that. But I ended up going to emergency room, and anyways, I don't know if he called an ambulance or he drove me at the time. Honestly, don't remember, but I do remember he was texting me the whole time to like see if I was okay, what are the updates, what are they telling me. I remember I called my mom to come pick me up from the hospital to bring me back to my dad's house, and my dad was very offended. One, because I called him asking him for help. He was the one that got me to the hospital, and then I wasn't really giving him updates, which one, anybody texting me while I'm in the emergency room for a panic attack expecting updates, you're out of your mind. Once I was in the hospital after these panic attacks, I was automatically given morphine. Automatically. Anytime I would be brought into the hospital, it would just be morphine. But especially because it's a hospital. They have your records. They kind of know what you're already like going through, or what you've been there for. So automatically morphine. I was sleeping when I was in the hospital. Any rest that I can get, I was getting. My eyes were closed. So he was offended, and my mom came to pick me up, and I wasn't giving him any updates. He was trying to get to know me, is what I found out later, right? And it seemed like I was pushing him away, but in reality, I was just trying to survive. I was just trying to survive. I was just trying to get through my days. So I ended up staying with my mom for like a week. Like after living with my dad, like I ended up staying with my mom for like a week because my panic attacks were so bad that I started disassociating. So I didn't feel like a real person. I felt like I oh no. I always get emotional in like the weirdest moments. Like I'm just talking and then it's just like my eyes start to water and my voice gets all cracky. And then I'm like, girl, what? I'm not gonna lie, this podcast has brought up so much feelings and like remembering how I felt at the time. Like I honestly don't think I'll ever forget the way that I felt going through my panic attacks and anxiety. Like I will never forget it. And even now to this day I can feel them coming on. But I got a little sidetracked right there. I ended up staying with my mom for like a week because I started disassociating. I started feeling like not a real person. I started feeling like I was watching myself get through the day. I was watching myself in these hot showers, watching myself try to eat. I just felt like I was watching over me, like it was not me. And I ended up going to the hospital and they told me that I had cannabinoid can I'm saying this so wrong. I'll put the words here, but like it was cannabinoid cannabinoid like hypermesis or something like that. I know it's definitely something hypermesis, but I don't know if it's cannabinoid or cannabod. I don't know exactly how to pronounce it, but I'll put it here somewhere. Okay, so amidst going through my panic attacks, I am diagnosed with cannabinoid hypermesis. And this is pretty much where I don't know, and I'd be lying if I told you I did. I'm not gonna lie, it was just that the gardening was making me sick. I think it was just too much of it, so it was to the point where it was making me sick. It would make me feel better after I did it or during the process, and then a couple minutes after I would feel sick again. I would garden again, feel okay. So it was just like a non-stop cycle. I had to quit gardening. So I stopped gardening for like a month. I moved back in with my dad during this time. So I was just constantly doing yoga. I was constantly doing my makeup, doing my hair, just anything to keep myself busy. And like I said, I was on unemployment. So I was very much unemployed and had all the time in the freaking world. Um, I became really, 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 really snatched at this time. This is where my waist quite literally disappeared. She vanished. I did not see her for a good long time. And so these couple weeks living with my dad were good, like me not smoking, editing Yaz. So I do want to add that living alone, I mean, technically I was living with my dad, but living alone, like having my own space and dealing with anxiety was much easier than it was being with a partner, because a lot of the times they don't know how to help you and you don't know how to have them help you, at least at first. So the constant like, how are you feeling? What do you need me to do? What do you want me to do? How can I help you? Doesn't help. It actually makes it worse because we don't know what we need. So when I was alone, I was able to sit with my thoughts and kind of figure out what I needed. And I started up smoking again. So a little bit after his girlfriend had her baby, I started smoking again. And I first started off with just like a little vape. I keep saying smoking. I started off gardening again. I started off with like a little vape at first because I had it on me and it was just easy to hit it and just go to sleep and they don't smell, nothing, right? Okay, so I started purchasing again and I would roll in my room, go to my car. This was my process. And oh wait, let me go back. So when I stopped smoking, I remember still smelling that smell, that very potent smell. But like burning, not like the smell that it smells when you're rolling it up. So it was a smell like if somebody was burning it. So somebody quite literally was gardening somewhere nearby. I don't know where. I don't know if it was in the house. I don't know if it was near like one of my outside windows. Like I just smelled it, right? Didn't put any knowledge towards it. It was whatever. Maybe I'm just making it up in my head because I haven't done it in such a long time and I want it so bad, right? So once I started gardening again, obviously they noticed because I would go outside to the front where my car was, get in my car, garden, come back inside. Keep in mind, I did not want to disrespect this house at all. I was not going to. It was not in the plans. I wanted to disrespect my mom's house, and I'm not going to disrespect my dad's house, especially because I do not know him like that. So, one day, they had texted me. And it smelled like somebody was gardening in the house. Weird. Because, yeah, it does smell like somebody's gardening in the house, but it's not me. It is not me. And I remember they were just attacking me. And the fact that I was getting blamed for something that I wasn't doing was pissing me off. Because I was trying to respect their house so much and they were blaming me for pretty much doing the complete opposite of exactly what I was doing, it was pissing me off. I remember I had texted my mom that day and she was just like, "No, you have to move in with me. You're not going to be dealing with that." Absolutely not. So I moved in with my mom, and living back with my mom again, I was dealing with anxiety for a couple of weeks, maybe a little less than a month, and my anxiety completely just stopped. Granted, I did have a little bit of rough mornings where I wasn't waking up panicking, but I would feel sick to my stomach when I woke up. I don't know if it was like a phantom pain, but I would just feel sick to my stomach. So I was still sick every morning, but I wasn't in a constant panic. I wasn't in a loop of panic attacks throughout the day. So I was able to function like a normal person. Around this time, I started getting my friends again. I started being more active on social media. And I now do not share as much. I feel like I'm way more private than I used to be because of the relationship that I'm going to talk about now. I met my most recent ex-boyfriend like a month after like moving in with my mom. And I remember he had followed me before I even had like lived with my dad. He was following me. And when he first reached out to me, I think it was just in response to like something that I posted on my story, just pretty much like agreeing pretty much. And it started from there. We were just like going back and forth. It was really like our mindsets were the same. We thought the same. We had the same morals. Oh, I have to laugh because you'll see. Everything was just aligning. It was just perfect for me, right? So the first day I went to hang out with this guy, I wasn't thinking that this was going to turn into anything serious. Granted, he was telling me all the right things, but I knew that I had just got a really serious relationship. So I wasn't thinking this was going to get anywhere serious. It was just going to be something fun to do, right? Keep in mind that at this time, I think I was like 24, and the only person that I had been with, this is a very much TMI, was the ex that I was in a relationship with for 7 years. So the ex that I was with during my panic attacks was the only person that I have been with once I met, my most recent ex. So I was thinking that, I never had the time to be out there to do whatever, to have fun. So I figured like this would be like the perfect opportunity, the perfect experience. He wanted more than that. And honestly, he was telling me all the right things. Like, why not give it a try? Like, who's to say how quick anything is? So we ended up hanging out, and then I think we ended up hanging out like the day after that. We were talking every single day, and I ended up moving in with him pretty quickly. Not keeping in mind that like I just went through a rough 2 years. Like, I still need to get my mental health straight. I still need to get back on my feet. I just jumped right into this relationship, and everything was okay the first couple weeks, right? When you live with someone, you start to see the real them. You start to see things that they don't let other people see because they can't hide it from you. You're living with them. You're with them all the time. So a lot of the things he was telling me, like his morals and his beliefs, were very contradictory once I moved in. It was giving, he was seeing the things that I was posting, my interests, my likes, my dislikes, and feeding everything back to me. Everything he's seen on social media, he fed to me as if they were his beliefs. So I'm over here thinking, like, this is like the perfect person. Like, we fit. We did not fit. We could not have been more opposite in our beliefs, in the way we treat people. Could not have been the first couple of months, like, I was just seeing things unfold. Like, wait, who is this person? This is not the person that I was getting to know. He was attempting to be controlling and like who I can hang out with, where I can go without him, what I can wear when I'm not with him. Absolutely not. Like I said from the last episode, I learned from my first relationship, and never again will I ever allow somebody to do that. I don't care if it's going to piss you off. I don't care if you're going to cry about it. I'm going to do it. If I want to wear something, I'm going to wear it. If I want to hang out with this person, I'm going to do it. If I want to go for drinks with my friends, I'm going to go for drinks with my friends, and you're not going to be there. So we did end up breaking up in a couple months into this relationship. We did end up breaking up. I broke up with him and moved back in with my mom for like a week. I don't remember exactly why I broke up with him. I want to say he disrespected me or he was trying to control me in some sense. And I was just like, absolutely not. I'm out of here. He blew up my phone. We had a conversation where I pretty much straight up told him, like, listen, I've been noticing a lot of things about you. And I've been noticing that I'm strictly working off your potential. The potential I see in you, that is what I'm attracted to right now. And you're not giving it. You're not putting in any work. You're not putting in any effort, any energy. Like, this is not working. And he talked me into giving this relationship another chance. So I moved back in. My family was very upset because they already didn't like him. The first time they met him, they already didn't like him. They didn't like his energy, the way he presented himself. They just didn't like it. So I end up moving back in, and November comes around and I have to go to the emergency room because I have a pain in my butt. Not gonna get into detail, but I had a pain in my butt. And it was bothering me for a couple days, and it was getting to a point where it was excruciating. Like, I couldn't even sit down. So I went to the emergency room one day instead of going to work. And as they do, they make you take a urine test. So I took my urine test. And the lady came back and she asked me, hey, when was your last period? And I have an attitude because I'm like, hey, I'm still in pain. At this time, they didn't give me anything for the pain yet. Nobody's talked to me or checked me out yet, and you're asking me about my last period. Can we be so serious right now? Are we gonna help me, or we're talking about things that don't matter right now? So I did have an attitude with her, and I'm like, what? Like that? Like, this is not what I'm here for, you know? And she's like, well, I'm only asking you because you're pregnant. And when I tell you the whole world stopped, I instantly tell her, okay, can I just have a moment? And I call my best friend. I call Cass, and I'm like, you would not believe that I'm pregnant. And she's like, I knew it. I've been telling you for weeks to take a test. She's like, I just had a feeling. And mind you, she just had Lila, my goddaughter, a month before. She's like, I just knew it. I've been telling you to take a test. And I had called my mom to pick me up from the hospital instead of my boyfriend at the time because I think he was working. But in reality, I just really wanted my mom. So I called her to come pick me up, and I told her in the car, my mom was disappointed. I think I have a video. I'm not posting that anywhere. But I think my mom was very disappointed. I think because she was just scared for me, the fact that I was going to be stuck with this person that she wasn't too fond of. Like almost like she can just see right through him. So I told her. She dropped me off home. I ended up walking to Walgreens to pick up a test just to take one on my own, and it came back real quick, real dark, positive, pregnant. I ended up taking all the tests that I bought, and I ended up leaving them on the table and laying back down because I was still in pain. They didn't give me anything. They couldn't give me anything now, especially because I was pregnant. So I had left it on the table, just waiting for him to come home. I told him, he was very excited. And can you believe the next morning I wake up with a panic attack? I have a nonstop panic attack where I'm literally panicking all day. All day. The next day rolls around. I am still in a panic. My body just completely shut down. And I felt like hopeless, and I felt like I was going to stress out the baby because I was so stressed out. So, mind you, I'm having a panic attack just because, if you don't know, like anxiety is a chemical imbalance. So, technically, it is something that we can't really control. I mean, we can kind of catch a grip on it, but in terms of it like coming on, we can't really control that. Like it just happens. It's not something. Sometimes it's not even something that is triggered. Like sometimes nothing has to trigger it. Sometimes it just happens, right? So I'm thinking like, damn, like I'm just panicking just to panic, just because my body is shutting down. But also like I am panicking because I'm panicking about the fact that me panicking is gonna stress out the baby, right? I missed a whole month of work because I was in a constant panic for a whole entire month. Editing Yaz again. So, like I said earlier, dealing with anxiety alone when I lived with my dad was way easier. But when I was dealing with anxiety, being pregnant, my boyfriend at the time was very, very good at helping me deal with my anxiety. And I think that's why I felt so loved by him in this relationship when I was pregnant. He was able to figure out things I wasn't able to figure out. Like, a way to help me with my anxiety at the time is to not ask me how I'm feeling, what you want me to do, but to completely change the subject. Hey, I had a terrible day today. Hey, can you believe this? Blah, blah, blah. Spill some tea. Tell me a crazy story. That helps a lot. Just getting your mind off the fact that you're panicking and it locks you into something else. I'm telling you right now. And also, he taught me to hold in my breath for 10 seconds, let it out for 10 seconds, which I think they did try to show me in the hospital at the time, like when I first started going to the hospital. But it's just the way that he was able to explain it to me, describe it to me, was way easier. So I just want to add that. I need to give credit where it's due, you know? I did have the baby checked out like the first week that I was panicking. He told me like everything is fine. Come back in a couple weeks. And I remember uh I remember one day waking up and I felt off. I wasn't in pain. I wasn't panicking. I just felt off. I felt weird. I didn't feel the same way I was feeling the last couple days. I felt like I miscarried or I was miscarrying. I didn't feel like I was pregnant anymore. And I remember telling a bunch of people. I remember telling him specifically, like, I don't feel pregnant anymore. Like I don't know. It was such a weird feeling. Like I just knew. Like your body just knows. I think because when I knew that I was pregnant, like obviously I didn't know before going to the hospital, but once I found out, it was hard for me to unfeel it, you know, like, damn, I'm really carrying a life right now. Like, my body knew. But once I miscarried, or the baby was like passing away, I felt it. Like, I felt like I wasn't pregnant anymore. I felt like something was wrong. And I ended up making an appointment. We go in, and he tells me that my, like, the sac the baby's in is abnormal. Like, it's not pretty much suitable for like a baby to grow healthy and all this other stuff. So I was miscarrying. And I remember when he was doing the ultrasound, at first, like, I was excited because I was still trying to have some type of hope. But I remember when he was like in the process of doing it, like, they usually don't talk, but it was just something about the silence that I knew. So yeah, it was something about his silence that I knew. And I remember when he, took everything out. Before he even started talking, I'm like, something's wrong. Like, what's wrong? And he's pretty much explaining, how abnormal it is. And keep in mind that I also didn't know I was able to get pregnant, because, like, how many surgeries I went through with my ovaries, and the fact that I still did have cysts in my ovaries. I wasn't sure I was able to get pregnant. In fact, the guy that did my ultrasound was the one that told me that, like, it's a possibility that I can get pregnant. And I remember saying, like, okay, like, that's fine. Like, it is what it is. Like, there's nothing we can do about it, right? But does this mean that it is possible for me? Like, does this mean that in a couple months or a couple years or whatever the case, that I can get pregnant? And he confirmed, like, yes, you got pregnant this time. You will be able to get pregnant in the future. So that definitely gave me a little bit more hope, but it still was hard for me. And after I miscarried, the way that I was treated in this relationship was something that I will never wish on anybody ever. I felt so much love for him when I was pregnant from him. So when I miscarried, like I said in the last episode, it was treated as if, like, okay, well, you were barely pregnant. Like, it was just a seed. Quite literally, his exact words, actually. It was just a seed. Relax. But I was going through it after the miscarriage, especially because I was being so hard on myself. Like, damn, your anxiety probably messed that up. Like, your anxiety was probably exactly why you miscarried. Like, you put so much stress on such, like, a pure life, like, oh. So I would just randomly cry about it. I would randomly just be upset about it. I remember, like, my heart would just fucking sink to my stomach thinking about it. And I remember, like, even having, like, conversations with my mom about it. My mom was like, "What do you mean? Like, you were pregnant and you lost it. Like, you have every right to feel the way you do." And I remember him telling me, like, "Oh, my mom said that, blah blah blah." Like, respectfully, I don't give a fuck. Respectfully, I don't care what she said. Like, I really don't care. Everybody has their own opinions. At the end of the day, I know what I felt. I know what I'm feeling right now, and it's valid. So there's that. I couldn't unsee his ugly after my miscarriage. I couldn't unsee how ugly, how mean, how just, I didn't want to be with a person like this, to be honest. And it started making me think, like, bro, like, imagine I would have had a kid with this guy. Like, how would I have been treated after having the baby? I remember checking out of this relationship after the miscarriage. I did some things, never cheated, never, but I did some things behind his back that, honestly, I almost got caught. Almost, but I'm too good. I'm too good. I was pretty much preparing myself to leave this relationship. So I was getting things done in the background. I remember my dad had reached out after our whole fallout of me moving out. My dad had reached out and apologized about everything. And I ended up telling him the situation I was in. that I miscarried. And he was just pretty much like, what do you need? And I told him, I was like, I don't have a car. Like, I need a car. I don't care about going back to my mom's, but I need a car. Like, I need this, I need that. I had a car when I moved in with this guy, keep in mind. I gave my car in because it was a lease. And he also promised to like buy a car or something for us, but like then that never happened. It was just a lot of empty promises. So, anyways, um, I had hung out with my dad one night. My dad was like, "Okay, give me a couple weeks. I actually have a car right now that I just bought off of an auction, and somebody's fixing it up. Let him, finish fixing it up, and we can get you out of there, right?" Okay, cool. I'm sitting here waiting, waiting, waiting. Occasionally would text my dad like, "Hey, like is it ready?" Whatever. I started to despise this guy that I was living with. So, I remember one day one of my old friends that actually used to sleep over my house had followed me on Instagram, and I followed him back. And my ex was so psychotic that I didn't even know at the time that he would check my following to see like who I followed, who I just recently followed. And he saw that I had followed this guy, and I pretty much explained to him like, what do you mean? Like, that's been my friend since like middle school, you know? So it was just really weird. And he ended up calling me out of my name. And that was my last straw. That was my last straw. He ended up calling me the B word. And I remember texting him, like, you know what? And I was at work at this time. I remember texting him, like, you know what? I'm going to pick up my shit. I didn't even care about the car. I didn't care about none of that. I'm going to pick up my shit. And he was going off on me, like, yeah, come get your stuff. So I told my boss, like, I'm going through something at home. I have to leave for the day. So I left. My dad actually met up over there at the apartment, his apartment, with a U-Haul truck ready to go. And this guy already had my stuff packed. He already had my stuff in boxes, right? Which is so funny because I'm like, oh, he's finally letting me go. Because the first time we broke up, he was not letting me go. He was harassing me. So I'm like, oh, he's letting me go. Like, this is going to be so quick and easy. Wrong. I move into my mom's. He's blowing up my phone, blowing up my phone. I end up blocking his number. He gets a text now number. Block that. Gets another text now number. Keep in mind, you can only have a certain amount of text now numbers until you have to start paying for them. This guy started paying for them very clearly. You cannot have, I think, maybe up to like 2 or 3 text now numbers before you have to start purchasing the numbers. So he's blowing up my phone, blowing up my Instagram account, blowing up my business Instagram accounts. A couple weeks pass by. He's blowing up my best friend. He's blowing up my other best friend. He's telling me he's gonna end his life. He's telling me like, oh, I just this and that. Like, it was traumatizing. I started having panic attacks again. I literally started having panic attacks again. Something else happened after this breakup with my most important ex and somebody else that effed me up really bad and made my panic attacks worse. Like, my best friend would come over in the morning and roll up for me, and I would be sick in the backyard, just not okay. When I tell you, it was just like back to back purging people from my life after this. I ended up seeing the light at the end of the tunnel as far as my miscarriage goes, just because like I was just thinking, like, imagine I would have had a kid with this guy. Like, I would have been stuck with him for the rest of my life. 18 years, nothing. For the rest of my life, I would have been stuck with this guy, having to deal with him, having a co-parent with him. We had 2 different mentalities, 2 different moral compasses, just completely opposite different people. He just knew exactly what I wanted to hear, fed it to me, and little by little, it started cracking. The vision he was trying to create for me started cracking. I started peeking into the cracks. It was insane, I'm not gonna lie. But I started to realize like that miscarriage was honestly a blessing. I consider my angel baby as my guardian angel, like 100%. Like, I still to this day, whenever it's brought up with my friends, like, I'll tell them, like, I know that was my guardian angel. Like I said in the first episode, I've had a very lucky life, and my best friend loves to say like I have a guardian angel like following me, protecting me, making sure that like I choose the right path. And I 100% just took it as my miscarriage was a message from my guardian angel that I really needed to see things more clearly, get myself out of this situation, and start doing more inner work. Start back up again with my 2017, ways. And I didn't meet new friends. I actually have, well, yeah, I didn't actually meet any new friends. I actually have all the same friends from middle school, which is so weird. All my old friends from middle school, we all started hanging out again. And on top of the, Kristen, which is one of my newest friends I've met after my breakup with my most important ex, we all just became like a really good group. We all still hang out very much every freaking week now. And I I honestly hang out with myself a lot. I am one of my biggest best friends right now. I haven't had a panic attack, I'm going to say, in like 2 years. I do deal with anxiety. I sometimes do have rough mornings where I feel sick to my stomach and it takes me longer to get out of bed, or when I do get out of bed, I feel sick. So a lot of times I am late to work, or a lot of times I don't even go to work because I'm just not having a good day. I like to be on top of like my mental health, the way I'm really feeling. I'm really focusing on myself. I have been, I don't know if the word is celibate or abstinent. Somebody needs to explain it to me, because I googled it and it was still confusing the hell out of me. But for like a year already, and I am single. I haven't been looking for a relationship. I don't want a relationship right now. I'm still trying to get my things together. And yeah, I'm just thriving right now. Oh, now that my story is officially over, next episode I'll be interviewing two people. They'll talk more about their experience with my anxiety, and after that episode, we'll get into the real topics. We'll get into um what anxiety can look like, cuz sometimes it's not panicking, or it's not being nervous, or it's not crying. It's sometimes it's just silent staring. Um it's just, you in your head. So we're going to get into like social anxiety and self-love. We're going to get into all these different topics now that you know my story and can refer to my story on some of these topics. So next episode, like I said, interviews. Next episode, we'll get into the topics. If you guys have any specific topics you want me to talk about in episode 5, let me know. I do have a Google Forums if you want to share your own stories, or you do have any questions. Like I said, it is linked in the description down below. And yeah, I really appreciate you guys giving it a listen. I'll see you guys in episode 4. And I don't know. Bye.